Remote towns in northwest WA have been left underwater after ex-tropical cyclone Zelia brought heavy rain and damaging winds to the region. The weather system is now losing strength as the tropical low moves further inland.
ABC meteorologist Nate Byrne joins us now from Port Hedland. Nate, what's it like there at the moment?
Well, actually, very calm, very still. Although the city is operating, the port behind me, that's the bright yellow lights you can see, we just had a ship come in, manned with tugs pushing it along. This town is operating. It's up and it's going. When we first came in yesterday, though, the indications of what Zelia did were very obvious, so we had to keep stopping, getting out to take some pictures. Roads closed, a truck pulling out of a driveway. This is one of the first things we saw, just loaded with debris and branches and driving through water over the road. But when we arrived, it was very apparent that this city is open for business. They are feeling relatively good, scathed, a little bit shaken perhaps, but for the most part, they're doing all right. Now, the indication's still here around town. In South Hedland, there was a street where I think pretty much every single property had trees down in front of their houses, but when we were going down there, people were out in the street chopping up trees, removing them. They very much just turned to and started action straight away to help clean up after what was a pretty harrowing day and night before Zelia made its way in. There's still water around as well. You can see actually behind me, this is just standing water. We're not talking floodwaters by any means, but just water around on the ground. Some houses, low-lying houses, still inundated, and that water's going to stick around. It's going to last for a long time. The recovery effort is going to be slow for some, but for many others, it's already pretty much done with. The trees are starting to be cleared. Around town, it's taking a little bit longer. The emergency services that we saw go through the roadblock, the first convoy that went through, I managed to find them in town yesterday actually, and they were set up. This is a staging point for them. Actually, a couple of trucks that have driven 3 days from Perth just to get here, and they're now really making their way as much as they can into the local surrounding communities, because for many it's outside of the town that's been greatest hit.
Nate, we've seen some incredible pictures yesterday at Marble Bar where it looks like there's been unprecedented flooding in what's normally a bit of a dust bowl. What is the weather situation there in Port Hedland and also further inland? What can people expect today?
Well, actually, last night, just as I got back to my accommodation, the heavens opened. It only turned into about 9 millimetres of rain, but I tell you what, we don't need any more wet weather here at all at the moment. But further inland, so Marble Bar has had major flooding. Those flooded rivers are now easing, still at major, but they're starting to drop, which is good news. But it's all flowing down the De Grey River to the De Grey River mouth, which is where we saw Cyclone Zelia really pack a punch. That community or that station still hasn't had any access. Emergency services are hoping to be able to get in there in the next couple of days. We know there's some damage, and the waters there are continuing to rise because all of the tributaries, which are now starting to empty and the water's starting to drop, they're emptying into the De Grey. So it's still a very much dangerous situation there. Further inland though, over the last 24 hours, we've had some good news, including the last of the warnings associated with tropical cyclone Zelia. Still, it's pretty gross out there as she follows her path inland. The Bureau of Meteorology had more to say on that.
It's moved slowly southwards over the last 24 hours and is now sitting in the northeastern Gascoyne. As I mentioned, the rainfall areas have eased, but there's still the potential for showers and storms, gusty showers and storms to bring heavy rainfall, but it's much more isolated or hit and miss. It's still drawing a whole lot of tropical moisture down over WA, and we're expecting that moisture to continue its southwards movement as that low moves further southwards, moving into southern parts of WA over the next few days.
So now our focus definitely pushes towards Marble Bar, De Grey. Community still very much cut off. Evacuations have been going on. The helicopters you can hear are the port operations going on here in Port Hedland. I'm just on one of the main streets. The port's just there. So we're going to keep an eye on the situation team and try to get into or towards some of those smaller communities as soon as is safe to do so.